AP News in brief at 6:04 a.m. EDT Kim lands in Singapore ahead of high-stakes Trump summit. Singapore, AP. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un arrived Sunday in Singapore ahead of one of the most unusual and highly anticipated summits in recent world history, a sit-down with President Donald Trump meant to settle a standoff over Pyongyang's nuclear bomb arsenal. A jet carrying Kim landed Sunday afternoon amid huge security precautions on this city-state island. After shaking hands with the Singapore foreign minister, Kim sped through the city's streets in a large limousine, two large North Korean flags fluttering on the hood, surrounded by other black vehicles with tinted windows and bound for the luxurious and massively guarded street. Regis Hotel. Trump was scheduled to arrive later Sunday. The North Korean autocrat's every move will be followed by 3,000 journalists who have converged on Singapore, and by gawkers around the world, up until he shakes hands with Trump on Tuesday. It's a reflection of the intense global curiosity over Kim's sudden turn to diplomacy in recent months after a slew of North Korean nuclear and missile tests last year raised serious fears of war. The North, many experts believe, stands on the brink of being able to target the entire U.S. mainland with its nuclear-armed missiles, and while there's deep skepticism that Kim will quickly give up those hard-won nukes, there's also some hope that diplomacy can replace the animosity between the U.S. and the North. Part of the interest in Tuesday's summit is simply a reflection of Kim's limited appearances on the world stage. He has only publicly left his country 3 times since taking power after his father's death in late 2011, twice traveling to China and once across his shared border with the South to the southern part of the demilitarized zone in recent summits with the leaders of China and South Korea respectively. Unorthodox Trump faces toughest test yet in Korea summit. Singapore, AP, embarking on a self-described mission of peace. President Donald Trump's seat-of-the-pants foreign policy is facing its toughest test yet as he attempts this week to personally broker an end to North Korea's nuclear program in talks with Kim Jong-un. The impulsive American president, who just this weekend sowed chaos within the Western alliance, is set to face his match on the global stage as he prepares to meet Kim in Singapore on Tuesday. In the historic first meeting between the leaders of the technically still warring nations, Trump is prioritizing instinct over planning. Unlike traditional summits between heads of state, where most of the work is completed in advance, U.S. officials say the only thing certain ahead of these talks will be their unpredictability. Ever since Trump shocked allies, White House officials and, by some accounts, the North Koreans themselves when he accepted Kim's March invitation for a meeting, the two leaders have lurched toward an uncertain encounter that could affect millions. It's unknown territory in the truest sense, but I really feel confident, Trump told reporters Saturday. I feel that Kim Jong-un wants to do something great for his people and he has that opportunity and he won't have that opportunity again. Isolated Kim takes big gamble leaving home for Trump summit. Singapore, AP, spare a moment, as you anticipate one of the most unusual summits in modern history, to consider North Korea's leader as he left the all-encompassing bubble of his lockdown stronghold of Pyongyang on Sunday and stepped off a jet onto Singapore soil for his planned sit-down with President Donald Trump on Tuesday. There's just no recent precedent for the gamble Kim Jong-un is taking. As far as we know, his despot father only traveled out of the country by train, and rarely at that, because of fears of assassination. Kim, up until his recent high-profile summit with South Korea's president on the southern side of their shared border, has usually hunkered down behind his vast propaganda and security services, or made short trips to autocrat-friendly China. While Singapore has authoritarian leanings, it is still a thriving bastion of capitalism and wealth, and Kim will be performing his high-stakes diplomatic tightrope walk in front of 3,000 international journalists, including a huge contingent from the ultra-aggressive South Korean press, sometimes referred to by Pyongyang as reptile media, two of whom were arrested by Singapore police investigating a report of trespassing at the residence of the North Korean ambassador. While he famously attended school in Switzerland, traveling this far as supreme leader is an entirely different matter for someone used to being the most revered, most protected, most deferred to human in his country of 25 million. Kim is, essentially, upsetting 2 decades of carefully choreographed North Korean statecraft and stepping into the unknown. Trump pulls out of joint G7 statement, attacks Trudeau LAMALBAIE, Quebec AP. The annual G7 summit appeared to have weathered tensions over President Donald Trump's threats of a tariff-fueled trade war until the mercurial American pulled out of a joint statement while citing false statements by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It was an unprecedented attack on the leader of the U.S. neighbor and ally. Trump was aboard Air Force One heading to an historic summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un when he issued a pair of tweets Saturday criticizing the G7 host and stepping back from the generally positive tone that had ended the 2-day meeting. A few hours earlier, Trudeau had told reporters that all 7 leaders had come together to sign the joint declaration. Trudeau said he had reiterated to Trump that tariffs would harm industries and workers on both sides of the U.S.-Canada border. He said unleashing retaliatory measures is not something I relish doing, but that he wouldn't hesitate to do so because I will always protect Canadian workers and Canadian interests. As Canadians, we are polite, we're reasonable, but also we will not be pushed around, Trudeau said, and he described all 7 leaders coming together to sign a joint declaration despite having some strong, firm conversations on trade, and specifically on American tariffs. Body language. Photo of Merkel. Trump captures G7 tensions. Frankfurt, Germany. AP. One photo is telling it all about tensions at the G7 summit. A picture of U.S. President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Angela Merkel displaying less than friendly body language is turning out to be a defining image of the contentious meeting of the group of 7 leaders of the world's advanced economies. The picture, snapped by German government photographer Jesko Denzel, shows a standing Merkel with hands firmly planted on a table staring down at Trump, who is seated with his arms folded and eyes glaring. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe stands next to Trump as French President Emmanuel Macron leans in next to Merkel. The photo was tweeted by Merkel spokesman Stefan Seibert. Shortly afterward, the White House issued a photo showing Trump speaking as Merkel, Abe and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau listen. Iran, spurned by U.S., angrily watches Trump. North Korea talks to Iran. AP. For Iran, the so-called axis of evil has boiled down to a party of one, as President Donald Trump prepares for direct talks with North Korea. With Saddam Hussein overthrown and Kim Jong-un now preparing for a planned meeting in Singapore with Trump, Iran remains the last renegade among former President George W. Bush's grouping of nations opposed to the U.S. For those in Tehran, whether hardliners, reformists or people simply trying to get by in Iran's worsening economy, it's head-spinning, especially after seeing Trump pull America out of the nuclear deal with world powers. I am buying my insulin shots at double the price only because of Trump's decision, fumed Najma Songhori, a 35-year-old diabetic mother of 2 standing in front of a pharmacy in central Tehran. Meanwhile, he is trying to reach a deal with North Korea. Who is going to trust him? It wasn't supposed to be like this. Excited crowds flooded the streets after the 2015 nuclear deal that Iran struck with world powers, including the U.S. Under President Barack Obama, Bourdain's death means loss of a voice for immigrant workers. Anthony Bourdain's culinary passions went far beyond the cuisine he put on a plate. He also was committed to the immigrant workers who toil in his and other kitchens throughout the restaurant industry. Bourdain, who died Friday in France in an apparent suicide at age 61, was an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump's immigration policies and a fierce defender of Hispanic workers. The chef, global traveler and author, whose popularity grew with his CNN series, Parts Unknown, often was the first to tip his hat to his employees from Central America or Mexico. He promoted his Mexican-born sous chef, the late Carlos Laguna Garcia, to run two of his New York restaurants, and complained loudly about the United States' ridiculously hypocritical attitudes toward immigration. Some, of course, like to claim that Mexicans are stealing American jobs. Bourdain said in 2014. But in 2 decades as a chef and employer, I never had one American kid walk in my door and apply for a dishwashing job, a porter's position, or even a job as prep cook. During the 2016 presidential campaign season, Bourdain slammed Trump's promises to deport immigrants in the U.S. illegally and build a wall along the Mexican border. Federal judge temporarily blocks deportation of pizza worker. New York, AP. A federal judge on Saturday temporarily blocked the deportation of a New York pizza shop worker to his native Ecuador after he was arrested while making a delivery to a Brooklyn Army base. Attorneys for the Legal Aid Society obtained the temporary stay for Pablo Villavicencio after a hearing in Manhattan federal court. The 35-year-old married father of 2 young girls was arrested on June 1 while making a delivery to the garrison in Fort Hamilton. A routine background check revealed there was a warrant for his arrest for immigration law violations. Federal Judge Allison Nathan granted the stay until July 20. Villavicencio will remain in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody in New Jersey until his case goes to court. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had asked federal Homeland Security officials to look into the case, saying recent detentions raise significant legal questions. Singapore postcard, Summit Island hides macabre history. Singapore, AP. A new surveillance camera was installed in restaurants closed on Singapore's Sentosa Island, a popular tropical getaway thrust into the spotlight ahead of a summit between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Located a quarter-mile (400 meters) off the coast of the city-state, Sentosa is no stranger to celebrities and VIPs. It is linked to this city by a bridge and home to high-end resorts, golf courses and a large amusement park. The macabre history of the island, which will become the venue of the historic summit on Tuesday, is less known. In the 18th century, when Singapore was a British colony, an unknown epidemic killed off most of its population of 60. Only 2 households survived. During World War II, the British used artillery forts and a battery on the island to unsuccessfully fend off a Japanese invasion, which transformed it into a prisoner of war camp. Justifiable. Racing gets 13th Triple Crown with Justify. New York, AP. Justify defied all the odds on his way to achieving Triple Crown immortality. The late bloomer won the Belmont Stakes by 1 3/4 lengths on Saturday, giving the sport its 13th Triple Crown champion. American Pharoah ended a 37-year drought in 2015 and now just 4 years later, racing is celebrating another sweep of the Kentucky Derby, Preakness and Belmont. Justify began his racing career on Feb. 18, a scant 77 days before the Derby. He won his first 3 races by a combined 19 lengths, making trainer Bob Baffert a believer. The big chestnut colt with the appetite to match burst onto the national scene with a 2.5-length victory on a sloppy track in the Derby. 2 weeks later, he survived a challenge in the fog-shrouded Preakness, winning by a half-length, again in the slop to set up a Triple Crown try. The raw talent is there, Baffert said. He just came on there and broke every curse there was. It was meant to be. Copyright 2018 The Associated Press. All rights reserved. This material may not be published, broadcast, written or redistributed.